My best friend slept with my roommate, who was about to get married. I couldn't keep this secret, and chose to inform the roommate's fiancée, MIGA living with my buddy Alex, who was about to get married, and hanging out with my best friend Ellie was usually the highlight of my days. I'm 26, pretty laid back, and I've always kept things simple. Alex, 28, had everything figured out, especially with his wedding around the corner. He and his fiancée, Sarah, seemed perfect for each other, like something out of a romantic movie. Ellie's been my best friend since our college days. She's full of life, always laughing and making everyone around her feel better. We were like two peas in a pod, but in a completely brother-sister kind of way. She often came over to our place, making our apartment feel more alive. But then, things started to change. Ellie and Alex began to get a bit too close, more than what you'd expect from just friends. At first I told myself it was nothing. Friends get close, right? The revelation hit me like a freight train one evening, when the apartment was cloaked in silence, and the city outside buzzed with life, oblivious to the storm brewing within. I returned home earlier than expected, only to find Ellie and Alex entwined in a way that left no room for doubt. They were quick to separate, their faces flushed with guilt, but the damage was done. The image was seared into my memory, a haunting reminder of the betrayal. It was clear they had feelings for each other, and those feelings had crossed a line. Ever since I found Ellie and Alex, my best friend and roommate, closer than they should have been, my world's been upside down. I wanted to be loyal to both, but my head was a mess. On one hand, Alex was about to get married, and on the other, Ellie has always been like family to me. The apartment we shared, which was once full of jokes and late-night pizza runs, started feeling more like a silent movie. Conversations became whispers when I walked in, and the air felt thick with secrets. I noticed the small things, how they'd suddenly stop talking or how Ellie's visits became more scheduled, especially when I'd be out. It made my chest tight, thinking about it all. I decided to keep it all bottled up inside because, honestly, I didn't want to be the one to cause a hurricane in everyone's lives. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I ignored it long enough, things would go back to normal. I didn't want to be the reason anyone's happiness got ruined, even if it meant putting on a fake smile every day. For 3 whole months, I lived in this bubble of hope and fear. Hope that Alex and Ellie would realize their mistake in fear. What would happen if Sarah, Alex's fiancée, found out? It was like walking on a tightrope, trying to balance everything and pretend I was okay with it. Every day was a challenge, trying to act normal around Alex and Ellie. I dodged conversations about relationships, love, or anything that could lead back to the secret I was keeping. It felt like I was living in a different world from them, watching from the outside. I began to pull away, spending more time alone, avoiding coming home. I started making sure they knew when I was about to come home, sending a text or calling to say, "Hey, I'll be there in 10 minutes. I thought it would help me avoid walking in on more moments like that. However, even with all my warnings, it kept happening. Every time I saw them too close, it felt like a punch to the gut. I started to dread going home. My place, which used to be where I could relax, now felt like the last place I wanted to be. So, I stayed out as much as I could. I hung out in coffee shops, wandered around the library, and did anything to stay busy and away from the apartment. It was like I was trying to disappear from my own life, because every time I thought about facing them, I just couldn't. It felt like everything around me reminded me of how things had changed and how uncomfortable I felt in my own home. I felt like I was stuck in a really tough spot. Here was my best friend and my roommate, who was about to get married, sneaking around. I kept their secret for 3 months, trying to ignore it and hoping it would just go away. But it ate at me. Sarah, Alex's fiancée, had no idea, and it didn't seem fair to her. The weight of knowing about Ellie and Alex became too much. I felt like I had to do something about it. It wasn't just about being loyal to Alex anymore. It was about doing what seemed right. Telling Sarah about what was happening with Alex and Ellie was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, knowing that what I was about to say could potentially ruin lives. But after months of carrying this secret, watching the strain it put on everyone involved, and feeling the weight of it crushing me, I knew it was something that had to be done. No matter how much I wished things could resolve themselves, the reality was clear. Sarah deserved to know the truth. Update. 3 months later, I decided to meet Sarah in a neutral place, somewhere public yet quiet enough for a serious conversation. I chose a small coffee shop in the park, a place that felt serene, hoping it would provide a calm backdrop for the storm I was about to unleash. I remember my hands shaking as I texted her, asking if she could meet me. I tried to sound casual, but every word felt heavy with the weight of what was to come. The day we met, I arrived early, my stomach in knots. As I waited, I rehearsed what I was going to say over and over, but the words felt inadequate. How do you tell someone their world isn't what they think it is? Sarah arrived, her smile bright, unaware of the news I was about to break. Seeing her happiness made what I was about to do even harder. I started the conversation with small talk, trying to ease into it. But how do you ease into something like this? Eventually, I just had to be straightforward. I told Sarah that there was something important I needed to talk to her about, something about Alex. I emphasized that what I was about to share was difficult for me, but I believed she had the right to know. Then I told her. I explained that over the past few months, Alex and Ellie had grown closer, in a way that wasn't appropriate for two people who were just friends, especially when one of them was about to get married. I shared how I discovered them and the emotional turmoil I'd been through, deciding whether or not to tell her. I made it clear that my intention wasn't to hurt her, but to be honest, because I believed she deserved the truth. Throughout the conversation, I watched Sarah's face change from confusion to shock, and then to something I couldn't quite decipher, hurt, maybe, or betrayal. She asked a few questions, her voice shaky, and I answered as honestly as I could, providing the details she sought. It was heartbreaking to see her process the information, to watch as the reality of the situation sank in. After telling her, I felt a mix of relief and dread. Relief that I had finally shared the secret that had been weighing me down, and dread for what it meant for Sarah, Alex, and Ellie. I offered Sarah my support, whatever decision she made about her future with Alex. I could tell she was shattered. I felt awful, but part of me knew it was better she heard it from me than someone else, or even worse, after the wedding. Walking away from that conversation was like leaving a part of myself behind. I knew things would never be the same after that, but I also knew I had done what I believed was right. It was a moment that changed the course of our lives, a decision made with a heavy heart, but a clear conscience. The next few days were like walking through a minefield. Sarah confronted Alex, and the fallout was explosive. I wasn't there, but Alex made sure I knew he blamed me for everything. He came home that night, his face like thunder, and we had it out. How could you? He kept saying over and over, like a broken record. I tried to explain my side, saying I couldn't just stand by and watch him make a mistake that big. But Alex wasn't having any of it. He saw it as the ultimate betrayal. Ellie, on the other hand, was a mix of angry and sad. She thought I had backstabbed them by not keeping their secret. Our friendship, once unbreakable, started showing cracks. She said she understood why I did it, but wished I hadn't. Our conversations became stiff, filled with awkward silences and unspoken words. It was clear things were never going back to how they were. The atmosphere at the apartment turned icy. Alex and I barely spoke, and when we did, it was just the essentials. It felt like I was living with a stranger, not the guy who had been my best friend. Ellie stopped coming over, and our group of friends picked up on the tension. Sides were taken, and suddenly, I found myself on the outside. It was like high school all over again, only lonelier. I started spending more time out of the apartment, staying late at work, wandering around the city, or sitting in parks just to avoid going home. The place I had loved, filled with so many good memories, now felt like a prison. The worst part was the isolation. Friends I thought I had in my corner slowly drifted away, unsure of how to navigate the new dynamics. The emotional toll was heavy. I struggled with guilt, wondering if I had made the right decision. Sleepless nights were common, and I found myself questioning not just my actions, but my judgment. Had I really done the right thing, or had I just destroyed relationships for the sake of my own conscience? Eventually, the situation at the apartment became unbearable. Alex decided he couldn't live with me anymore, and I couldn't blame him. The search for a new place was quick. I just wanted out. Moving out was a relief and a defeat all at once. It felt like I was running away, but I also knew staying wasn't an option. The day I left, the apartment was silent. Alex didn't help me move, and there were no goodbyes. It was a quiet end to a chapter of my life I had thought would last much longer. In the weeks that followed, the fallout continued. Sarah called off the wedding, and though she didn't blame me, our interactions were tinged with the sadness of what had happened. Alex and I lost touch completely, our brotherhood a casualty of the truth. Ellie and I tried to salvage our friendship, but it was like trying to piece together a broken vase. We could put it on the shelf, but it would never hold water again. Looking back, I wonder if things could have been different if I had stayed silent. But deep down, I know I couldn't have lived with myself. The price of honesty was high, and I paid it in friendships and heartache. But lying to myself and everyone else would have cost me even more. In the end, I learned that some truths are heavy, but carrying lies is heavier still. After the storm of revelations and the shifting sands of friendships lost, the days began to brighten for me. It wasn't immediate the healing. It felt more like the slow bloom of spring after a harsh winter. I moved into a new apartment, a small but bright space that felt like a fresh start. In the solitude of my new surroundings, I found peace and, surprisingly, a sense of freedom I hadn't realized I'd been missing. The void left by old friendships made room for new ones. I dove into hobbies that I'd put on the back burner, joined a local soccer team, and even picked up guitar lessons. These activities brought me into circles I wouldn't have otherwise crossed, and through them, I met people who brought new perspectives and laughter back into my life. As for Ellie and Alex, time proved to be a great healer. Ellie reached out first, a tentative text that opened the door to reconciliation. Our friendship, once fractured, began to mend, not as it was, but into something new, more mature. We acknowledged the past, but chose to focus on the future, celebrating our new paths and supporting each other as we always had. Alex's journey took longer, but a chance encounter at a mutual friend's wedding brought us back into the same orbit. The initial awkwardness gave way to a heartfelt conversation, where apologies were exchanged and forgiveness was granted. It was a reminder that while friendships can break under the weight of secrets, they can also rebuild, stronger in the broken places. My career took an unexpected but welcome turn when I was offered a position at a startup. The work was challenging but rewarding, and it came with the added bonus of travel, allowing me to see parts of the world I had only dreamed of. On one of these trips, I met Maya, a fellow traveler with a thirst for adventure and a kindness that drew me in. Our connection was instant, and what started as a shared journey through foreign lands blossomed into a partnership I had longed for but never found. Years down the line, as I reflect on the tumultuous period that reshaped my life, I see it not as a time of loss, but as a crucible that forged my character and my future. Ellie, Alex, and I, though forever changed by the events, found a way to coexist in each other's lives, a testament to the enduring strength of true friendship. And with Maya by my side, exploring the world and building a life together, I am reminded that sometimes the hardest roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. Happiness, I learned, isn't the absence of pain or conflict, but the resilience to move through it and find joy on the other side. My story, once marked by betrayal and heartache, is now a narrative of growth, forgiveness, and new beginnings. And for that, I am profoundly grateful. Finally, I want to extend my sincerest thanks to all of you who have taken the time to share your stories on Reddit. Please continue to journey with us, share your experiences, and together, Let's create memorable moments.